This is the Harley Davidson Road King Special. This one's in vivid black. We bought this a year ago. We've done around 10,000 miles on it, so I feel comfy giving you my thoughts on it and a little bit of a review. Such a fun bike. For a big bike, it handles really well. On the twisties, on mountain roads, it's really a nimble bike. I'd never ridden a touring model, and I come from a chopper. Long story, I'll tell you in a bit. I've never been a fan of bikes with fairings or even windscreens. I've never had one, never want to have one. Maybe that'll change one day. So when we started looking at the touring models, this was an obvious choice. Having no fairing, no windscreen. Never really thought we'd end up buying a bike as new as this because we just didn't have the money. But like I say, I had a chopper. It was really only good for solo riding. It had no suspension on the rear. It was a Harley Davidson. It was a 1340 Evo engine. It's a great bike. I love that bike. Had it for like 12 or 13 years. We were saving up to buy an older Road King because my wife just never enjoyed going on that bike, and I understand why. It was great for me. I'd put my pack on the back, my sleeping bag, etc., and off I'd go. But for two people, no way. It's got the Milwaukee 8 engine. I come from an older Harley, an Evolution 1340 engine, and Jesus, what a jump this was. I didn't know what to expect when I bought it, and this engine's amazing. It's just so smooth, so much power, tons of torque. I'll go through the specs in a minute, but my overview on the bike, it's just an incredible bike for touring. I chose this one because it didn't have fairing, didn't have a windscreen. We wanted a touring model, and this was the one. You know, each and every one's to their own thing, and I get why people buy a bike with fairing, the road glide, the street glide. I get you either like that thing or you don't, and you know, I'm not dissing it, but it's just not for me. I love the wind. When I'm riding, we predominantly head for hot countries, and if I'm in the sun, I want that wind to cool me down. I mean, we did Italy and Sicily this year, and temperatures up to like 41, and I couldn't imagine being behind a screen in that heat. We suffered even on this. In 70 mile an hour, we still needed to stop and get water and pour it over ourselves, and we were just wearing t-shirts and stuff. We didn't have tons of gear on. Again, each to their own on that. The engine's 1868 cc. It's got 158 newton meters of torque at 3,250. It's also 89 horsepower at 5,020 RPM. It's belt drive. It's a beast. It's just an amazing bike. From the minute I bought this bike, I found it really easy to ride, even though it's a massive lump. It's a super. I come from, like I say, a 1340 chopper. Getting on this bike, you know, it was intimidating when I first sat on it because it's the wide tank and it's really heavy. Within 5 minutes down the road, this bike just feels like a BMX. It's nimble, it's agile, country roads, mountain roads, hairpins, it will do it all. On the motorway though, the biggest difference from coming from my chopper, which had dirt track tyres, 23-inch front wheel, you know, it had 17-inch bars, suicide bars. This thing used to be a scary ride for people. I mean, I was used to it, but it was a crazy bike. But to come to something so polar opposite, getting on this on the motorway is just a dream. It's so planted because of the weight, I guess.
the wheelbase, the rake of the forks, etc. And especially two up with our gear on it. On the motorway, this thing sails along by the biggest lorries, Arctics, and you don't get that sort of, you know, you go by and my bike used to shake around. This bike just goes along like a Cadillac, and I love that about it, because we do some serious miles. We'll do 10-hour days, and I never thought my wife would be one for 10-hour days. On my old bike, after a couple of hours, she would want to cut my throat, and I'd worry for my life, because I knew what it's like on the back of that bike. It was hell.
So we were saving up to buy an older Road King, as I like the look of the Road King, but we would have bought a much older one and seen what that was like for touring. But last year, my chopper got written off. We both got written off. One of us had to go, and it was the bike, not me. I was gutted. It was not the sort of thing, you couldn't go and buy another one. It was a bespoke bike. I was never going to replace it, really. So it just seemed a really good opportunity, maybe call it fate, that we threw the insurance money together with what we had saved and started, you know, looking for a better tourer. And I really like these bikes. I'd seen these about in the dealers, I'd seen them, and I thought it was the one that caught my eye. No fairing, no windscreen. It looked a bit slick. It didn't have the old school styling, which I'm not a massive fan of, all the chrome. So yeah, I was drawn to this, but this was really out of our price range. I started looking. We sort of thought we could stretch to buy a very early one of these, like a 217, I think they come out. And we were trying to figure out if we could just about afford one of them. And all of a sudden, this one come up for sale on Facebook, like a private ad, and the guy wanted to sell it quick. It was a 2022 model, ridiculously cheap. I thought it was going to be a scam, but the guy was just desperate. I got there that day and we got it, and I couldn't really believe it, really. I felt like a dream. I couldn't believe we got it for what we got it for. When we got there, it only had just under 3,000 miles on it. It was 3 months old. It was absolutely immaculate. He'd put a few grand of extras on it as well. And yeah, I rode away with it that day. It was up by Stonehenge, we bought it.
I'm just going to go over a couple of the changes I made on the bike. I've not changed tons, but a few things were completely necessary. First being the handlebars. The handlebars that come with the Road King Special, in my opinion, are way too wide. They're way too far forward. I'll show you. I changed these for the Road Glide handlebars, which have got 7 inches more pullback, and they're only 32 inches wide, which is ample for me. I'm 5'11", and these are the perfect bars for me. I'll show you. When I'm sitting on the bike, I'm sitting back. I've got a backrest that attaches if I want it. On long journeys, I find a backrest amazing. With Lisa on the back now, the days of my old chopper where I had a sleeping bag on the back I could lean back into have gone. She's there, so I got the backrest, and I just find on 9-10 hour days that's a really comfy position. The pullback on these bars allows me to lean back into it. It's just perfect setup. The other ones I was more like that, which I don't get. That's not cruising. That's just, but like I say, I understand a lot of people are 6'4", 6'5", and up. And that's the great thing about this bike. It's good for very tall people. You've got bags of room. Again, with the steeper rake than on the forks, than the soft tail, you gain that more arm room. And this is a great bike for tall people, but again, someone 5'6" could ride this bike. I've got, the seat height's not too high. I'll put the specs up. I think it's about 24.5 inches. I'll put it up, I might be wrong. I'll put it up underneath, but I'm really planted on the floor. I feel very safe when I'm at the lights. I see guys on some adventure bikes on tiptoes, and I mean, hats off to them for doing that, but I could never ride like that and be on tiptoe. I got to be with Lisa on the back, with all of our luggage. There's a lot of weight on this bike, and I've got to feel safe, you know, when I stop. Wet ground, gravel roads. If I was on tiptoes, I would be one nervous guy. But yeah, the bars are amazing. Super pleased with them. Again, I see a lot of people change them for ape hangers. And again, I like that style as well, but this is just a more relaxed riding style for me. I changed the seat. The standard seat that came with this bike was very, very comfortable for me, but the pillion is not a comfy motorcycle. And for a touring bike, I don't understand why they put on such a poor pillion seat. It was more of a sloped back. I'm sure anyone looking at this video has looked up the bikes and looked at tons of pictures and loads of videos anyway. You know what I mean? It's sloped back. It's just not a comfy. She was, you know, okay for an hour on that, but it wasn't a comfy pillion seat. We opted for the Mustang, what's it called? Wide Tripper it's called, and the matching pillion. It has a backrest that will pop in or out very easily, and that's just me comfy. Lisa's comfy, and I know they're ugly, so you can lose them very quickly. Also on this bike, the floorboards I find they're not too far forward. Some forward controls I just find too much, and my old chopper I had mid controls, so it was strange to me going to forward controls because I just feel way more relaxed in a mid control position. But these are just not too bad. They're really in a good place, and I find with the length of these floorboards I tend to ride in a mid control position anyway, because when I'm going along I kind of just tend to have my foot there, which is where I like to be. It's what I'm used to. But obviously you can stretch out, and they do a lowering kit if you're taller, and you can lower the floorboard. The other thing I added to the bike was some Denali lights. I chose the R4 mainly because of daytime riding, just more visibility. Yeah, the reason I chose these lights is last winter I was working out in the countryside, and every morning I was driving to work down this country road in the car, and every morning I saw this guy come towards me on an adventure bike, and I could see him for miles away. And one day I saw him in the garage, and I went and clocked what lights they were, and they were these Denali R4, and I just thought they're a great looking light, and they really are bright.
And I must admit, when I first got on it, I was a bit daunted at the size. My chopper was a very stripped down chopper, super skinny, 23-inch front wheel, dirt track tyres. This was like the polar opposite. If my bike was like some anorexic chick, this was like getting on Aretha Franklin. And yeah, I never forget, I got off the guy's driveway had a steep incline and a bend at the top, and riding it out for the first time I was a bit daunted. He had the original bars with it, which I've changed. They were very wide, very far forward. It was a real stretch for me to even sit on it. It was so uncomfortable when I bought it. It wasn't for me. And anyway, I rode it out of there. The minute I got on the open road on the Salisbury Plains, took it on them country roads out by Stonehenge, I literally fell in love with this bike. It's one of the easiest bikes to ride. Even though it's a big beast, it's a heavy bike, it's so easy to ride. It almost rides itself, and had so much fun on this bike. Woo! That was a bit sketchy, that bit of road. Yeah, this bike is so much fun, so much power. It handles like a dream. It's got tons of mod cons that I've never had before. I mean, I never had indicators. Look, indicators. The self-cancelling. Yeah, I'll go through, get off the bike, let's have a talk about it.
So these bikes come with a 6-gallon tank. But you have to remember, if you're in the UK, that's a 5 gallon. It's a 6 gallon US tank, which is the equivalent to 5 gallon UK. The range is about 250 miles. And there's a few times on our trip there where this bike's so comfortable that we would drain that tank before we needed to get off. It really is a comfy bike, and it's great having that range. It's a good range to have on a bike. You don't need to carry spare fuel. You're definitely going to find a garage. So another great thing about this beast is what it can carry. This can carry 251 kilograms. So that's including both the rider and luggage. So I worked out, me and Lisa are 126 kilogram. I mean, we're not the biggest people. We're not that big, but we're not, I mean, I'm kind of average size, 5'11". I'm 12 stone, just under. Lisa's kind of tiny, so yeah, she's small and light. But we're 126 kilograms. So I worked out that we could take ourselves again, or four people on this bike, and it wouldn't be over capacity. So with us two and all of our luggage, we were never even close to the max carrying capacity, which is always a nice thing. You know, I think you'd get a shock when you look at a lot of bikes. A lot of bikes don't actually carry that much weight. And I think with two people, if you're going touring with two people, you really need to look at that before you're buying a bike, because a lot of bikes, that, you know, if you're riding two up, they haven't got much room left with all your riding gear on, etc. You haven't actually got much room to carry luggage. And bikes like, I'm pretty sure I read up that the bikes like the GS, the BMWs, they don't come with the panniers. So you have to start adding that. Just when you buy panniers, you have to add that weight of the actual pannier onto your load capacity, whereas these bikes come with the panniers, so that's just, you know, you don't have to worry about the weight of that, just what's going inside. So that's a good factor, I think, worth considering when you're touring. Right, I've given you my thoughts and tried to cover as much as I can think of. Anyone got any questions, put them in the comments and I'll get back to you on that. Hopefully I'll have an answer to what you've got a question for. But I love the bike. It's a great bike. I won't be selling it. Lisa loves it. I love it. It's a super fun bike to ride. Very powerful. It stops when you need it to stop. The torque's great. I mean, we've been doing a lot of two-up riding, like I say, and with two of us and all of our luggage, this engine's putting a hell of a lot of weight, and it just does it magnificently. Doesn't ever complain, just pulls and pulls. And when you need to stop, it really will stop. We've had a couple of emergency stops with idiots on the road, and this thing stops, no doubt about it. It instills pure confidence, these brakes. Lisa's thoughts as a passenger have been really positive. Obviously, in a gravel car park, on sand, you know, wet grass, when you're at a camping site, you've got to be careful. Slow manoeuvring, all the obvious things, just avoid that front brake. You know, if these bikes go, they're going to go. There's nothing you're going to do. You're not going to hold it up, you know, unless you're Arnie. It's a lot of weight. If it goes past the point, it's going to go. But it's got the crash bars, so it's really not going to do much damage. This one's got heated grips, which are beautiful. Never had them before. Gotta love them. The back brake's in a lovely position. Real big pedal on the back brake. Really nice, easy to get to. The mirrors sit lovely. You know, I always know what's behind me. They don't shake anymore like some of the older Harleys. It's a smooth engine. It's still clunky, you know, when you drop a gear, change gear, it's got a clunk. I don't think Harleys are ever going to lose that. It's got the 6 gallon tank, which don't feel, I've come from having a skinny tank. I had a 2 gallon tank, like I say, on a chopper, but it still feels a nimble, small bike. It don't feel too big between your legs.
I love the setup with the clock. I know some people like it higher. I'm used to that. I never really had a speedo on my old bike for a long time, so a speedo's a novelty, but I can see this easy. The lights at night are fantastic. The Daymaker headlight is amazing. The rear lights are not so good. I've updated them for LEDs. I updated the indicators for LEDs. But overall, what do I think of this bike? It's a fun bike. Anyone can ride this bike. You know, it's a lot of weight, but it really does handle nice, easy, smooth. It makes you want to ride. I bought this bike for riding, for touring 2-up, and probably I thought if I wasn't 2-up, I probably wouldn't have bought this bike. But if Lisa hadn't liked this bike, I still would have kept this bike. It's a great bike for on your own. It's great being able to carry so much gear. Obviously, you know, if you like going away, if you like touring, maybe if you like just going to the pub or going on little 50-mile, 100-mile rides, this isn't the bike. You know, if you're just a round town rider, this ain't the bike. It'd be a bit excessive, it'd be a bit pointless. But if you like doing the miles, this will kill miles. This doesn't ever, 10 hours on this bike is just a pleasure. You get out feeling like you've been on the settee all day. But at the same time, it is still exciting. It's got go, it's got grunt. You know, when you want to pull away quick, if you want to get out of trouble quick, it'll get you out of trouble. I mean, it'll get you in trouble as well, but you just got to remember what you're riding. Remember the weight, remember the power, obviously. But overall, this bike I just find so much fun. It's been an absolutely perfect choice. I read all the reviews, I read the reviews, I watched videos, I've done as much research as I could. I fell in love with the looks of it, aesthetically, you know. I love Harleys, but it really hasn't let us down. It's a great bike. It's so much fun. I didn't think it'd be as much fun as it is. It really is a fun bike. Yeah, highly recommend it.